We're going to keep moving quickly. Next up, we have a super interesting talk. Can we please welcome Eva van der Dijs from she's the team manager at Forze Hydrogen Racing. Please give Eva a round of applause.
Hello everyone, my name is Eva and I'm the team manager of Forze Hydrogen Racing. And today I'm going to be telling you about what we're doing and how we use both data and also really need computational power or computing power to actually achieve our goals. But first, as I'm sure there are some of you who aren't familiar with us yet, what's Forze Hydrogen Racing? Who are we? What are we doing? Well, to summarize it, we are a team of students who are working on a voluntary basis to build a Le Mans prototype race car that is driving on hydrogen. And well, almost always the next question is, okay, why are you doing that? Well, that's a bit of a twofold situation. On the one hand, we really want to promote hydrogen as a sustainable carrier of energy. And in doing that, we really want to educate ourselves, who are, well, the engineers, marketeers, etc. of the future, right? So before we really get into the nitty-gritty, I always like to tell a bit more about the history of Forze, who we are, so that you all know a bit more about that. We've been existing for about 17 years now, and as you can see on the slides, we started with a cute little go-kart that was driving on hydrogen. And that escalated a bit over the years. But starting at the beginning, we started with a little go-kart, driving in a go-kart series that was specifically for go-karts that were driving on some sort of sustainable energy source. For us, that was on hydrogen. That series was called Formula Zero, hence the name Forze, not so creative, but oh well. And that actually went quite well, because we won first place 3 years in a row. And at Forze, almost always when we really achieve something, we take a step back and think, how can we challenge ourselves more? How can we do something that's new, something that's innovative? And that's what we also did here. And hence why we also took the step from go-karts to cars, which went quite well, because the Forze 6, the third iteration, actually set the lap record at the Nürburgring for hydrogen-powered cars, which that lap record is still standing. And now, the car is in our workshop on display. But again, we took a step back and thought, how can we challenge ourselves? And well, in automotive, if you really want to challenge yourself, if you want to be competitive, measure yourself against others, there's really only one way to do that, and that's via racing. And so we took the step from the Forze 6 to developing the Forze 7. But that's not that easy, because racing on hydrogen is a unique and innovative thing. And so there's not just some hydrogen series that we can step into and compete in. So we actually compete against petrol-powered race cars, which we did for the first time with the Forze 7, which went well, but at Forze we don't like to be there just to be there, we want to compete. And so we took the step from the Forze 7 all the way to the Forze 8. And the Forze 8 was very competitive, because it actually won a podium in the Supercar Challenge. At which point we once again, like I said, it's really in Forze DNA, took a step back and thought, how can we really challenge ourselves? Because, okay, we took this podium, now we want to do more. And that's really how we arrived at our current project, which is the Forze 9. To put it really bluntly, the Forze 9 will be twice as powerful as the Forze 8. It will have top speeds of about 300 kph, be able to go from 0 to 100 in under 3 seconds, and will have a boost power of about 600 kilowatts, which corresponds to over 800 horsepower, so that's really a lot. But on technical basis, how does this actually work? How are we powered? What drives us forward? So I don't know if any of you are familiar with hydrogen fuel cell systems, but that's how our car works. And so a fuel cell system with a hydrogen side, an oxygen side, and everything that's like working around that to make it work is what we call a balance of plants. And in the middle of that balance of plants is a fuel cell in which an electrochemical reaction between, on the one hand, oxygen and the other hand, hydrogen, creates electricity, which then is used to power our car. This graphic here kind of shows you a bit about how that works on a more lower level, I guess. And what really makes our car unique is that we don't have one balance of plants, but two within one car, which are thus working together to power the car. And that's really a unique concept, and also is part of what gives us so much power. But that's not just it. A really big part of that peak boost power of over 800 horsepower is our accumulator, which is essentially well, to put it in really simple language, it's really a super battery that has the capability to store and then also push out electricity at a very high rate, which also allows us to do regenerative braking. More specifically, some specs about our car. So we have four-wheel drive, which is also why we are able to regeneratively brake and store energy in our accumulator that efficiently. And then also we have some things such as torque vectoring, which means that we really control all the power that is on all of the four wheels individually so that we can optimize our car around that. Moving on, one thing that I really want to mention is our embedded system, because I just mentioned all of these systems in our car, but most people kind of, embedded systems is a little bit the forgotten child in the sense that people don't really think about how are those systems actually controlled, how are they actually measured what's going on. That's all through the embedded system. So that's essentially, it's a computer hardware system on which you put software, and that's then controlling the car. One thing that I always compare it to is the fact that it's kind of like the car equivalent of what in the human body is your brain and your nervous system. So it's constantly reading out data and then making decisions on what to do based on what it's reading out, right? So it's sensing, it's actuating, and then it's controlling what's going on. And the Forze 9 is also really a driving laboratory because we have over 400 sensors in our car. And if you can imagine 400 sensors which are constantly giving you data, that's really a lot to deal with. And so the design of this, but then also the actual testing of this and controlling of this, just requires a lot of computing power because it generates so much data, and you have to know what to do with that, and also you have to have the power to be able to test that, right? So how do we actually design all of our subsystems? How do we develop our car? That's really where data-driven design comes in. And data-driven design is really, data-driven design is really at the heart of what we do at Forze, because efficiency and optimizing our resources is incredibly important for us. And well, to put it really bluntly, if you can simulate how you think something is going to happen beforehand and make really smart decisions based on that data, it's just a lot more efficient than producing a part, than thinking, oh, it's actually not strong enough, and then producing it again, right? So how does this actually, for specific elements in our car, work? Let's see. So for aerodynamics, CFD is really the main factor in this. So CFD stands for computational fluid dynamics. And what that essentially means is that we can simulate how we think our bodywork is going to create aerodynamic effect. And so we can optimize the design before actually even producing anything. And so that really requires a lot of computing power to be able to do that accurately. And also, well, to be able to do that at all, really. Then, software and electronic design. I already mentioned it earlier, the embedded system. Well, software, I think, is quite intuitive why you need computing power, but actually electronic design, it's the same thing, because say you have a PCB, if you want to produce that and then test that, it's really, you have to design it in a virtual space first, right? Then, mechanical design. Many people, well, what I realized today, don't really think about this aspect, but you can test, you can simulate how you think forces are going to, for example, impact a bracket. And so again, if you can calculate that and simulate that beforehand, it just saves you a lot of efficiency than producing it, testing it, producing it again, etc. And so, like I said, we really need, for all of these elements, immense amounts of computing power, which is also where our presence here today and our partnership with HP comes in. It's why all of our engineers every year are really fighting over these workstations. And lastly, I think one thing that really enables us to do what we do is, well, you see a couple of the faces here. We are a team of about 68 people. It's really the attitude and approach that we have as a team of challenging ourselves, challenging the status quo, and also collaborating with the partners that we have to really have this knowledge diffusion. So if I could really give you one message to take away with you today, it's to challenge yourself and the decision making that you do, to just do it, just try, and to challenge also your approach and to really collaborate with your coworkers, but also perhaps with third parties around you, because that's really how we are going to innovate and move forward. All right, thank you for the attention.
Thanks, Eva. That's super interesting and it's very impressive work. We have a few minutes for questions. Anyone in the audience? Hands up. I see a gentleman here.
Hi. Oh.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the presentation. Very interesting. You obviously do a lot of CFD, FEA, different mechanical design engineering tools.
Yeah.
Do you use any machine learning or deep learning techniques in your workflow for optimization or the CFD or FEA?
Yeah, so we actually also simulate how the systems in our car really all work together, and test with that as well in a 3D simulator, which then generates a lot of data, which we then use use a lot of different complex algorithms to make decisions, and that also happens on a live basis. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the audience? Eva, I have one more question for you.
Tell me.
You mentioned the importance of compute
Yes.
in the way that you develop your automobile. I think AI is becoming increasingly important for almost every organization on the planet, ours included here at EY. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are thinking about the risks that compute becomes unavailable? Because we all assume that it's available on demand whenever we want, but actually the reality is that it's a 2-year wait list to get GPUs from NVIDIA. Yeah. VCs are hoarding GPUs in order to give them to their startups that they invest in. So can you talk a little bit about how you guys have approached those risks?
I mean, for us, that's really where our partnership with HP comes in. So for us, yeah, it sounds a bit simple, but we send an email and we say, hi, we would really like some more workstations, can you help us? And luckily for us, the guys at HP are really excited about our project and about investing in, well, young people like ourselves, who are really also trying to accelerate towards a sustainable future, and they aid us with that. So from that perspective, I guess we're a bit lucky as well.
Strategic partnerships, one good solution there. Thank you very much. Any other questions from the audience? Can we please give Eva a big round of applause? That was amazing. Thank you so much.